Good evening. It is 7:10 p.m. The Board of Trustees of LaPorte Independent School District is now convened. I wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone present. Every student's success is our number one priority. As LaPorte ISD Board of Trustees, we're here to set goals, adopt policy, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and communicate the district's vision and success to the community. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. School board meetings are open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. Audience participation is limited to the patron presentation portion of the meeting. Board members may not respond to the public comment section. These proceedings may be recorded, and I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking. Thank you for taking time this evening to join us and for your interest in LaPorte Independent School District. At this time, we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Will you join me in the pledge to the United States flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas flag. I honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. And the invocation be given by Miss Deanne Thompson, Board Trustee.
Good evening. If you will, bow your heads. Lord, we thank you for this day. As we come together tonight, we are grateful to live in a country where we are all able to vote. Let us never take that right for granted. Thank you, Father, for every person that is gathered here and the talents that they bring to serve our children. We are appreciative of the opportunity to meet this evening and conduct the business of our school district. Please watch over our proceedings and get us all safely home. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, we'll go to item 5, board recognitions. We have staff recognitions. Okay. Boy, if y'all will come down.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to invite to the microphone Ms. Andy Viator, our Executive Director of Human Resources, who is going to introduce us to some special guests.
Okay, good evening. We have some very special guests in the audience, and among those special guests, we have our Aspiring Leadership Academy, Cohort 2. And on behalf of our leadership team in LaPorte, we are very, very excited to say that these leaders, these aspiring leaders, have completed an application process and were selected into this group. And we were very excited. We recently were able to attend our TEPSA Grow conference together. Lots of fun, and we also experienced lots of leadership opportunities. So without further ado, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the Leadership Academy. It is, we put this in place. This is our second cohort to inspire, support, and grow our future campus and district leaders. This is a year-long program that provides opportunities for these aspiring leaders to collaborate and to gain insight about leadership from our current LaPorte ISD leadership team and also other leaders in the field. Whether our aspiring leaders want to grow in their current role or whether they are wanting to pursue some leadership here in the district, we are so proud to be able to have this program that offers this support to our developing leaders so that they can gain insight from one another. So without further ado, I want to recognize our 12 aspiring leaders from Cohort 2. When you hear your name, if you'll come up and shake our board's hands, they want to see you. We want to take a picture as well right here. So please come up. We have Casey Dixon from Bayshore Elementary. Jonah Gallington from the Academy of Viola DeWalt. Tracy Guidry from LaPorte Elementary. Marissa Kime from our curriculum department. Brittany Mancias from Lomax Junior High. Shelby Miller from Heritage Elementary. James Odom from LaPorte High School. Heidi Trotta from LaPorte Junior High. Penelope Velasco from Heritage Elementary. Allison Watson from LaPorte High School. Keith Whiteley from the Academy of Viola DeWalt. And Keith Wilson from LaPorte Junior High. All right, we want to say congratulations and thank you for representing our district as our aspiring leadership group. If you have a family in the audience, if family members, if you're here to honor them, please stand. And we know you have a great support group. Yes. We are so honored to work with this group, and we're going to take a picture at this time.
Yeah, I know. Oh. Okay. Okay, we'll go to item 6, public comments. The board will now hear those who wish to make comments and have completed and returned the public comment participation request. This section will be conducted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act and board policy. Complaints and concerns for which other resolution channels are provided shall be directed through those channels. Mr. Shoppy, do we have? There's none. Okay. So with that, we'll go to item 7, public hearing for the district's financial integrity rating system of Texas. First, for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. I guess we'll open up the presentation first and then open. Okay.
Good evening. Okay, the first was adopted during the 1999 legislature. School First is a statewide rating system implemented in 2003, beginning with the 2001-2002 fiscal year. So it's like this year we're going to be going over the 2021 audit that was presented to the board in the 21-22 year. TA implemented changes effective 2006 and 2007 fiscal year. Additional changes were implemented for the 13-14 fiscal year, and they kind of tweak it every year, but those were big changes. It expands the public education accountability system in Texas to the financial services. The primary goal is to achieve quality performance in the management of each school district's financial resources. The goal made more significant due to the complexity of accounting associated with Texas school finance system. There are currently 20 indicators, 17 that are scored and 3 that are not being scored. This is the 20th year that schools have been rated under first. Previously, each district was assigned one of four ratings: superior, above standard, and substandard achievement. With the 13-14 fiscal year, they were assigned pass or fail. And then after that, they started doing the letter ratings: A for superior, B for above standard, C for meet standard, and F for standard achievement. And we've been superior every year since we've been doing it, except the year we were pass fail and we were passed, obviously. So, for a district to pass, they must receive a score of at least 7 and answer yes to indicators 1, 2, 3, or 4. And we received a 96, a score of 96, and answered yes to indicators 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is kind of an overview of the state. So there's 1,019 districts that are in the first report. 882 were superior, 94 were above standard, 35 were meet standard, and 6 were substandard achievement. So the majority, and then you can also see the enrollment of the ones that are superior versus the other categories. So now I have to go through each of the indicators and then some other information. This should go pretty fast. Was the complete annual financial report and data submitted to the TA within 30 days of the November 27th deadline? That's our deadline, depending on the school year's fiscal year, respectively. And ours was. The board approved it on November 16th, 2021, and filed with TDA November 18th, 2021. Was there an unmodified opinion in the AFR on the financial statements as a whole? When the AFR is audited by independent auditors, they issue an opinion stating that the financial statements are fairly presented and free of material misstatements. The affirmation of this process is indicated by an issuance of an unmodified opinion by the auditors. A modified opinion generally means that there needs to be some type of corrective action taken on reporting of the district's assets or its internal controls. The district has received unqualified, unmodified opinions from its independent auditors for many years. Was the school district in compliance with the payment terms of all debt agreements at fiscal year end? And that just explains some of the types of debt agreements, and we were in compliance with all of our debt payments. Did the school district make timely payments to TRS, Texas Teacher Retirement System, Texas Workforce Commission, TWC, Internal Revenue Service, IRS, and other governmental agencies? Yes, the district made timely payments to all government agencies. Indicator 5 is not being scored. 6, was the average change in assigned and unassigned fund balance over 3 years less than a 25% decrease, or did the current year's assigned and unassigned fund balances exceed 75 days of operational expenditures? The district's fund balance did not decrease, however, the average change was 0.1886, which is greater than a negative 0.25. The current year's assigned and unassigned fund balance exceeded 75 days of operational expenditures. Fund balance was $51,817,899 and was greater than 75 days of operational expenditures of $26,346,689. Was the number of days of cash on hand and current investments in the general fund for the school district sufficient to cover operating expenditures? And we received a 10 on this, which is the highest ranking. The number of days of cash on hand must be above 90 days to receive the highest ranking of 10. The district's number of days of cash on hand was 159.5253. Was the measure of current assets to current liabilities ratio for the school district sufficient to cover short-term debt? The current assets to current liabilities ratio must be at 3 or above to receive highest ranking of 10. The district's ratio was 4.1093. Did the school district's general fund revenues equal or exceed expenditures, excluding the facilities acquisition and construction? If not, was the school district's number of days of cash on hand greater than or equal to 60 days? The district's general fund revenues exceeded expenditures, and the district's number of days on hand was 159.5253, which exceeded the 60-day requirement. So we met both of those requirements, but we just have to meet one or the other. At 10, this indicator is not being scored. 11, was the ratio of long-term liabilities to total assets for the school district sufficient to support long-term solvency? If the school district's increase of students and membership over 5 years was 7% or more, then the school district passes this indicator. And we haven't had an increase in enrollment to meet 7%. So the ratio of long-term liabilities to total assets must be below 0.6 to receive the highest rating of 10. District's rating is .7642. So, that gives us a 6 on this one. Was the debt per hundred of assessed property value ratio sufficient to support future debt payments? The debt per hundred of assessed property value ratio must be less than 4% than 4 to receive the highest ratio of 10. Port's ISD ratio was 2.9627. Was the school district's administrative cost ratio equal to or less than the threshold ratio? The Port ISD had administrative cost ratio of .0876. The cost ratio has to be below 0.1 for a district our size to receive a 10. So that depends on the size of district on your rating. Did the school district not have a 15% decline in the students to staff ratio over 3 years? If the student enrollment did not decrease, the school district will automatically pass this indicator. The school district did not have a 15% decline in the student to staff ratio over 3 years. The percent change for the district was 6.1%. 15 was not scored. 16, did the comparison of public education information management system PIMS data to like information in the school district's AFR's annual financial report result in a total variance of less than 3% of all expenditures per function, and that ceiling passed. The comparison of data submitted to TEA through its PIMS resulted in less than a 3% variance. LaPorte's variance was 0%. Did the external independent auditor report that the AFR was free of any instances of material weaknesses in the internal controls over financial reporting in compliance for local, state, or federal funds, and that ceiling passed? The district's AFR was free of any instances of material weaknesses in the internal controls over financial reporting in compliance for local, state, or federal funds. Did the external independent auditor indicate the AFR was free of any instances of material noncompliance for grants, contracts, and laws related to local, state, or federal funds? We received a 10 on that. The district's AFR was free of any instances of material noncompliance for grants, contracts, and laws related to local, state, or federal funds. Did the school district post the required financial information on its website in accordance with government code, local government code, Texas Education Code, Texas Administrative Code, and other statutes, laws, and rules that were in effect at the school district's fiscal year end? And the district received a 5, and that was the maximum points for that indicator. The district posted all required financial information on its website in accordance with government code, local government code, Texas Education Code, Texas Administrative Code, and other statutes, laws, and rules that were in effect at the school district's fiscal year end. Last indicator, did the school board members discuss the district's property values at a board meeting within 120 days before the district adopted its budget? That ceiling passed. We did discuss the property values at a board meeting within 120 days before the district adopted its budget. So what is LaPorte ISD's rating? LaPorte ISD received 96 of 100 points, which is A, superior achievement. The district received the highest rating possible as established under guidelines and rules established by Texas Education Agency. Reporting requirements, that just tells you where you can go find them. The superintendent, now there's some other disclosures that are required. What's that? They require 5 other disclosures. So once the superintendent's employment contract, you can provide it with the first report or post it on the website, and we provide it with the first report and it was posted in the agenda. Then we have to report reimbursements received by the superintendent and board members for fiscal year 2022. And this doesn't mean just reimbursements directly to you, but things paid on your behalf, like conference fees, hotels, mileage, those kind of things. And so it's reported for the superintendent and each board member. So for Dr. Jackson, it was $9,379.33. For Mr. Yonda, it was $2,333.04. For Mr. Shoppy, it was $934.18. For Mr. Martin, it was $3,107.79. For Ms. Crutcher, it was $1,225. For Ms. Green, it was $1,587.02. For Mr. Hanks, it was $625. For Mr. Murdoch, it was $3,356.52. And for Ms. Thompson, it was $3,102.26. So this was for the 21-22 school year. This is the 21-22 first report. outside compensation and or fees received by the superintendent for professional consulting and or other personal service in fiscal year 2022, and there was none of that. Gifts received by the executive officers and board members and first degree relatives, if any, gifts that have an economic value of $250 or more in the aggregate in fiscal year, and there were no gifts reported. Business transactions between school district and board members for fiscal year 2022, and this doesn't include any of your travel and training, and there was none of that, and that's it. Any questions? You can ask questions and then we go to public meeting if there's no questions.
Lord, do you have any questions?
I did have one, but I forgot what number it was on. I think it was number 11 or 12. How hard would it be for you to get back to that?
Easy.
Easy? Everything's easy for you, Rhonda.
11 was the long-term liabilities.
Yes, I think that is it. What does it say?
What
Read
was
it.
the ratio of long-term liabilities to total assets for the school district sufficient to support long-term solvency?
And what was our rating on that?
6. We got a 6 out of 10. That was the only one we were marked down on.
Okay.
Must be below 0.6 and ours was 0.7.
7642.
Any other
Okay.
questions?
Board, do you have any questions? Okay. I guess, Ron, we'll go ahead and open up the public meeting. So it is 7:31 p.m. We'll open up for a public hearing on the district's financial integrity rating system of Texas for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. And we'll open the meeting at 7:33 p.m. Anybody from the public would like to come up and speak on that? Don't all y'all rush up here now. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:33 p.m. Okay, and then with that, we'll go to item 8, administrative reports. Dr. Jackson.
Thank you. So, board members, as we head into the holiday season, I want to certainly provide you with a brief summary of so many of the many great things that are happening in our school district. I'm proud to report that 21 fourth graders and 9 fifth graders were officially welcomed as and inducted as members of the Heritage Elementary Schools National Elementary Honor Society this past month. I had an opportunity to attend that, and it was wonderful. With the new inductions, the total National Elementary Honor Society membership on the campus is 43. And the campus recognizes students in both public and non-public elementary schools for their outstanding academic achievement and demonstrated personal responsibility. So congratulations to Principal Hyde and her folks. Let's give them a hand for that. Congratulations. The haunted house, the 2022 haunted house, haunted high school, not only provided for fun, but for about 700 of our younger students, but event patrons also donated more than 1,500 canned good items for a local food bank and a community nonprofit organization. So we're very proud of that. This annual event is organized by the LaPorte High School Student Council and is supported by 30 campus clubs, groups, and organizations. LaPorte High School's Mighty Bulldog Marching Band on October 22nd earned a finalist spot for the 3rd straight year in a row. And 4th time since 1989 at the UIL Area Marching Contest in Alvin, Texas. Of the 18 bands that competed, LaPorte High School placed 6th overall. Only 7 bands are named area finalists, and we certainly were part of that. The band qualified for UIL Area by earning the coveted Sweepstakes Award at the October 16 UIL Region 19 Marching Contest. 3 LaPorte High School students earned a chair in the Region 19 All-Region Orchestra after the October 22nd auditions at Pasadena Memorial High School, and another student earned an alternate position. We're very proud of these musicians. About 370 orchestra students auditioned for the 60-member All-Region Orchestra. We're also very proud of our band students at Lomax and LaPorte Junior High Schools. 9 musicians between the two schools were recently named to the All-Region Band. They will perform at their All-Region concert on November 12th in Barbers Hill. Let's give those students a hand too. Thank you. We just wrapped up an outstanding fall athletic schedule. Our Lady Dogs volleyball team went to the wire in its quest for a playoff berth. We're also very proud of the Bulldogs football team, which posted its best record in more than 5 years. We're very happy for all of these students and student athletes. Congratulations to our junior high student athletes as well. LaPorte Junior High 7A volleyball team won the district championship on October 29. Let's give them a hand. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. Lomax Junior High 8A volleyball team also qualified to compete at the district tournament. We're very proud of those students. LaPorte and Lomax Junior High School's 8th grade football teams split their annual crosstown rivalry games to wrap up a very successful season. It was another great season for our cross-country programs. Both the boys and girls teams qualified for regionals, and Brady Axtell and Bryce Shawley qualified to run in the UIL state championships meet this past weekend, where they wrapped up an exceptional cross-country careers. These kids made it to state. Let's give them a hand, please, and thank you. National Signing Day is tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Ms. Guidry just reminded me, at the Bulldog Center. And so far, we know of 2 student athletes who plan to commit to play and study at the next level. In addition to this, the district continues its focus on the leadership definition work through the Holsworth Center, along with our first 2 meetings of the Aspiring Leadership Academy. You met them tonight. This group has just returned from the TEPSA Leadership Grow Conference in Austin, and I'm hearing wonderful, wonderful accolades and wonderful thoughts about their time in Austin this weekend, where they met with and learned from some of the brightest minds in public education. Our district administration team continues its work with Into Learning, and our high school is preparing for the fall EOC retesters. We continue working on our bond steering committee and on developing a bond package that will soon be presented to the Board of Trustees as we make plans for the future of our district as it relates to facility updates, technology, transportation, and all things maintenance and operations for our wonderful district. The future is very bright in the Porte ISD, and I'm very proud to serve as its leader. That will conclude my presentation, Mr. President. We have several others that will be coming that you may bring to the podium.
And with that, we'll go to item B, Partners in Education. I'm sorry, Ms. Cook.
I'm sorry, who?
Glad to see you back.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
All right, I'm here tonight to tell you about our Partners in Education program and what we've been doing so far. The mission that we've established is that the Porte ISD Partners in Education program is to connect businesses, industries, community organizations, and volunteers with our schools to positively impact the education of our students. That picture there is a picture of one of our mentors in the HELPS mentoring program, Brandy from First Church. You've heard the proverb, it takes a village, and nowhere is this more evident than in our school district. We are fortunate to have such a community that cares so much about our students and cares about their education as well. This is, as you know, this has been something that Dr. Jackson has had as one of his goals, the board has had one as one of their goals, and the Lower Bayshore Chamber of Commerce has also wanted to do for quite a while now. The Chamber has been very gracious in helping with this, helping spearhead it. We are also hoping to get small and family-owned businesses, larger businesses and industries, community organizations, and individuals. And in this picture, you'll see it's of the Becoming a Man program at LaPorte Junior High School. This is Austin Fiala, who's a 2016 graduate of LaPorte High School, who's come back to tell students about how to do maintenance on a truck. A little bit of history about the program. This is not the first time that LaPorte ISD has had a Partners in Education program. There was a structured program in the late 1990s, early 2000s, and for a variety of reasons, relationships, when people have moved on, some of those have fallen off over the years, but we do have some continuation of those partnerships today. Every campus welcomes involvement. I talked to the elementary and secondary principals when I first started, and of course they would love to have businesses and industries involved in their campuses, as well as more volunteers. They're always needed. The purpose of the PI program, or Partners in Education, PI for short, is that we'll serve as a central connector for businesses and individuals in supporting and developing positive relationships with the district. Sort of like a clearinghouse. If somebody calls and they want to volunteer but they just don't know where to go, we'll be able to help them find a place in our district. If a company wants to get involved and just doesn't know what to do, we'll be able to point them in the right direction, we hope. Some of our goals are to get additional business and campus sponsors, which we're already working on, recognizing our partners not just at the campus level but also at the district level, increasing volunteer involvement in our schools, and organizing all of these opportunities under one umbrella, the Partners in Education program. And you'll see in that photo, that's Lisa Camp, who is our Emergency Medical Services Chief in LaPorte, and she is talking to Jenny Reed Elementary School students about the Early Act program, which is a community service club sponsored by the LaPorte Rotary Club. We established an advisory board with representatives from the LaPorte Bayshore Chamber of Commerce, Jeff, small business, larger businesses and industries, community members who have been extensively involved in the successful program that the Baytown Chamber of Commerce has, and of course LaPorte ISD. Communication is going to be key to making this a success, and as I mentioned before, recognition is something that we really want to do. Right now we have a lot of people that are doing things on campus and they don't want the recognition, but it's always nice to feel valued and appreciated. Some of the ways that we'll be doing that, we have a web page. Adam has been wonderful. He and his team have been wonderful in supporting me. And on the front page, when you go to, I believe it's Around Us, you drop down and there's Partners in Education page there. He's also put the volunteer form on that page, so it'll be easy for people who want to be volunteers to go through that process. Again, the Chamber has been wonderful. They sent out an invitation to the Partners in Education luncheon that we had last week, which was wonderful, and have offered their full support. We're going to have a monthly digital Partners in Education newsletter that we're working on now. It'll have pictures, recognition, ideas for helping. For example, when I met with the secondary principals, they were telling me about a clothes closet that's being established and they're needing donations. So that'll be something we'll put in it to hopefully get more support for things like that. Community meetings, I plan to have more of a presence at some of the meetings, such as we're hoping to speak to the Plant Managers Network, LaPorte CAC, which is Citizens Advisory Council to LaPorte Industry, and places like that where we may be able to find opportunities for businesses and industries to get involved. This picture right here is of the NEO's Go Run for Fun that you may remember from the past. They had this fun run at all of the elementary campuses. Adam also did a podcast with me the other day. That was my first time to do that. We plan to put photos and information on social media, and he started that with our luncheon last week. We'll produce an informational brochure that we can give to businesses and industries, and of course news releases. That picture there is of ExxonMobil when they donated steel to LaPorte High School's welding program. Examples of partnerships. There are many, many ways that people can get involved. When we think of Partners in Education, we think of businesses and industries adopting a school, but there are many other ways as well. Of course, Campus and Parents Volunteers helps mentors, and that's Frank Nance, who has kind of spearheaded with Jeff this mentoring program through the Chamber of Commerce. Parent-teacher associations and organizations. The Watchdogs, Dads of Great Students, and that's a picture of Mr. Meldrum at Lomax Elementary School, who is one of our watchdogs at our campuses. Churches, we are so fortunate to have many of our churches that are involved in our schools. Advertisers and sponsors. Our Rotary Club of LaPorte not only does the Interact program that I told you about earlier, but they also sponsor the Interact Club at LaPorte High School, which is a very active community service club. The LaPorte Education Foundation, of course, you know how much the foundation does for us. They've given over $2.6 million in grants since the inception in 1993. And this is a picture of Charlotte Penny and some of the foundation members giving a grant. Speaking of the foundation, Charlotte and I are working very closely together, although our purposes and our priorities are different for the programs we're involved in. An example of this is that Raising Cane's is coming to LaPorte. You may have seen it across from San Jacinto College. We had a Zoom call with Michelle Hines, who's the marketing director there last week. Charlotte talked to her about they're giving a donation at their grand opening, and they're going to sponsor the Hoops Classic. I talked to her about her coming to speak to our high school students about marketing. They've offered some attendance incentives, a free meal to some of our elementary students for like AB honor roll or perfect attendance, that sort of thing. So we'll have different goals as we talk with people in the community. Booster clubs, of course, have an enormous presence in our school district, and scholarship donors. And those are just a few. Getting back to our business and campus partners, here's what we'd like for them to do if they would like to pair with one campus. We'd ask them to commit to serving as a partner for 1 year, and then they'll provide us with a contact person at their business or industry, and we'll provide a school employee who will be their point of contact as well. And then we plan to have 2 partners in education committee meetings with these individuals each year. That way they can exchange ideas, and we think will really help them as they continue to partner with our schools. Ways to help. At our luncheon last week, we gave a long list of ways that we could help in our schools, and we'll also be putting that on our website. But here are just a few ways. Speaking of a career day, mentoring a student, sponsoring a meal for teachers. That was high on the principal's list when I talked to them. Teachers love that. And of course, there's no better time to love on our teachers than now. Help at a science night, fulfill a teacher's book fair list, provide a door prize or attendance incentives. In speaking with some of our small business owners, you know, they're like, I can provide a door prize. I may not be able to put on a big science night for you, but I can provide a door prize. And the list goes on. This picture is of Rachel Cotton, who is our CIS staff member at Porte Junior High, and she's showing off a cart full of treats that were donated by a local vendor for teachers. And these pictures, as I close out this presentation, are the first one is of Carla Spencer, who's one of our mentors through the HELPS program. The middle one, you may remember this summer, we had several community partners, including the Rotary Club and many of the City of LaPorte departments who filled the bus with school supplies for our kids. And then the last one is, again, the INEOS Fun Run, where one of the INEOS employees is giving a high five to Yolanda Joseph as she crosses the finish line. I wanted to share with you one little story that I heard as I visited with the principals, and this one is from LaPorte Elementary School, where the kindergarten classes have been adopted by Bayview and Oakview retirement communities, Methodist retirement communities apartments. And in visiting with Diana Perelka, the counselor there, she told me that last month, the senior citizens gave $86 to the 2 kindergarten classes so that students who cannot afford to buy books at the book fair could do so.
Aww.
Wow.
This month,
How
the
touching.
kindergartners are filling the food pantry at the apartment complex for the seniors who are on a fixed income and things get a little tight at the end of the month. So it just goes to show you that no matter how old or young you are, if you're a small business or a big business, we can all help one another. And that's what we hope to do with this program. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Board?
I'm
I'd
just
say thank you.
glad to see
Terry has
this
jumped in
back.
Yeah.
with both feet and is doing a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
glad to see this back in our schools.
Thank you
This is
so much.
awesome.
Thank you for the
Yeah.
opportunity.
We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Ms. Cook.
Thank you.
We'll go to item 8C, special education staffing. Ms. Trader and Ms. Viator.
Good evening.
Hello.
Dr. Jackson invited us to share a brief overview with you of special education career professionals within Porte ISD. So, that's what we're going to do. I thought I'd start by showing you how LaPorte compares special education-wise students with districts in the area as well as the state. So as you can see that, now, full disclosure, the information for LaPorte is current because I can access, I know exactly what we have. The rest of the information from the other districts is pulled from their table reports, which I got online. So I don't have their most current numbers, but I have what they posted as of the end of last school year. So as you can see, we have a healthy population of special education in LaPorte, and that is due to the outstanding job that our staff, our parents, and our community members do in identifying students who have special learning needs, and we're able to get them into the programs that they need. We have three types of paraprofessionals in LaPorte ISD special programs. So we have inclusion paraprofessionals, and those do direct academic support at the direction of the teacher. They are in general education classrooms supporting learners of all types. Then we have what we call program paras. Those paraprofessionals work with students who have a little more specific needs. Some of their needs are prompting and cueing, behavior intervention support, feeding, changing, helping with mobility. They do those things in the life skills program. They do them in our SAIL, which is a program for students that have communication disabilities, and then also in our behavior support programs. And then we have individual student supports. Now currently, right now, we do not have any students that have an individual paraprofessional. That is always a possibility as students come in and go out and their needs change. So the way that we would decide on that is an ARD committee would meet. That is the special education IEP meeting. To meet and discuss the students' needs. And so when they do that, they would look at mobility needs, personal care needs, and any needs anything they would need to access the general education curriculum. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Angela and switch spots with you.
Good evening, everyone. The next slide, which looks similar to Ms. Trader, but this does detail some information about our salary schedule. The first three columns are our minimum salary, the midpoint, the maximum, and then we have some information about the average incumbent in the position. So ours is the top row, and then we have some of our neighboring districts, and I really just mirrored Ms. Trader in some of the districts we've pulled, including large districts such as HISD and Clear Creek. Also at the bottom of the chart, you see Region 4 data. This is from the TASB salary study. We do not have this year's. We've already submitted our data, but we will not receive the 22-23 data until maybe next month, possibly January. So I'll certainly be looking at that as it comes in. And then the last row is all of Texas on TASB. So that's Region 4 data and then Texas. And the only school district we were not able to get current data on was Galena Park ISD. So you'll see there 21-22. But as you can see from this chart, our minimum salary here and many of our neighboring districts, we are higher than several. I will just point out, we are about where we are with Pasadena ISD. That is something that we work very hard at looking at and making sure we're being very competitive with that neighboring district. Also, Clear Creek ISD is a little bit higher than us, but the other ones we are higher with that. One thing I wanted to share with you is the average incumbent salary. Those are our paraprofessionals that are in that position currently. And these are program paras. These are not inclusion paras, that's a different pay grade. These are our pay grade 3. This is where it's located. We moved them from pay grade 2 to pay grade 3 this year just based on need and also our job market. And so we did that, you all approved for the 22-23 school year. And you might say, well, some of the average incumbents are higher. Well, why is that? Some of the districts may have people with more experience. They've stayed in their position, like Friendswood ISD, for example. However, you do have some that have less average incumbent. And again, these were last year, so we'll be looking at that as we do receive that information. I know it's a lot of information to process.
So as far as minimum salaries, like a starting out salary, as far as looking at our neighbors,
Okay.
we're only bested by Pasadena and Clear Creek that I can see from here with my
That's-
old eyes.
That's correct, and yeah, that's correct. HISD, which we don't have a lot of competition with. because
Right.
someone lives in
I
that
wouldn't
area.
consider them our competition,
yes.
really, truly, but
And the Dickinson ISD is an outlier. I certainly want to, look at that, but we are very competitive with our neighbors, and we really try to maintain that. And remember the first three columns, that's a hiring schedule. So we
Correct.
definitely want to look at if people have experience, we wouldn't bring them in at minimum. And I'll talk on that in just a minute, what we consider job-like experience or experience in the paraprofessional position. So we would honor that, and then certainly look at our incumbents.
and say again your definition of the average incumbent.
Okay, so those are people who are currently doing this job right now, are paraprofessionals who are in this pay grade, and that is their average pay per hour, right there.
The
So
program para.
That's correct, the program para only.
Okay.
Excuse me, I think it's on the one of the first slides that
Yes, sir.
we are the highest in terms of percentage of sped students in the district. Okay, so, and we're kind of in the average on pay scale. How many students on average do our sped teachers support compared to these other districts? 'Cause to me, that's a big factor. If they're asked to support even 2, 3, 5 more kids,
Yes, sir.
we need to pay them a heck of a lot more than what Deer Park's paying.
So we follow the TASB model for staffing, and we do a 1-to-4 ratio in those programs. We do not have a single classroom that is above the 1 adult to 4 student ratio, and many of them are below that. So while we do have a large number of students, we do have the staff right now to meet those needs.
Is that number on the rise? Is that my understanding?
Yes, sir, it is.
So how does that, and I apologize for the questions, but
No, it's
do we know how many teachers, like per capita, I mean, percentage-wise, like that are dedicated to SPED as compared to other districts?
As far as compared to other districts, I'm not sure. I know we have about 58 sped teachers, I believe, and about 100 paras right now.
But we don't know if that number, if like, say, I don't know, Pasadena or whatever, percentage-wise, has more.
But we certainly
I
can
think
get
we
it.
could find
My,
that.
We can certainly find
my,
that.
my point is like, if it's 1 to 4, but what if theirs is 1 to 2, right? And so if I was a SPED teacher and I can make 50 cents less, but have the half the amount of kids to work with, to me, that's a determining factor coming from a staffing background.
We can certainly find out. We'll research that, definitely.
And was there any indication of what that outlier, why Dickinson stands out?
I'm not sure. We can certainly look at that.
Kenny, I don't know that this is factual, but they might have to do that because that's a little further down the road.
And they're competing with Clear Creek too. I mean, they're,
I just didn't know if they had a different program that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's their programming. Any other questions about this chart here?
well, I mean, the one I guess my concern is the minimum. Yes, we're best in Deer Park, but we're also bordering Clear Creek and Pasadena, and Pasadena is 50 cents higher. Clear Creek's nearly $1 higher. I kind of like to see us get up to that on that minimum, but that's just my comment. But
The other thing I wanted to point out to you all, looking at Pasadena ISD's midpoint, I'm not sure how they space out their minimum and midpoint. Our midpoint is higher than Pasadena's, so just another piece of looking at when people start to when they stay in their position and they're able to, increase their.
In your exit information ever, when people leave, is there ever the question of, or the answer, the response to, I'm leaving because they pay more?
Most of our
Curious.
paraprofessionals are either becoming teachers, they're gonna go to school full-time, and they're deciding not to be able to keep the hours anymore. They decide to stay home. A circumstance changes about those are the most. There are some people that do some job searching, but I will say a lot of them come back. They wanna come back, and we have people who reapply. because they look at.
I mean, I know people want it and deserve to make more
Sure.
money, but I'm just asking,
Here's-
was that an issue for you?
I'm glad you asked that, and something else that's come up more recently, and of course, this has probably been the last year with, and again, gas prices have fluctuated, so, but when the gas prices were high, which kind of corresponded with the time we were seeing the end of the year happen, some people were looking to get closer to their homes, so we did hear that more so than we heard, they're paying a little bit more there. We heard that they just wanted to be a little closer to home.
How much do we have to factor in? I know we compare against other districts, understandably, but in this day and age, with everybody else, the minimum wage going up at McDonald's or anywhere else, how much does that factor into what we have to start paying?
What we look at for our job market is our TASB salary study, and we also look at other districts. And so we sometimes do that, but I wanna remind us that, and I know this is an hourly rate, so we're looking at hourly versus hourly, so, you know, apples to apples perhaps, but oftentimes people do para jobs for lifestyle reasons. They want to pursue education. They're going to school to be a teacher. They like the hours because they can spend time and be home when their children are home. Sometimes they even choose certain schools because their children are going to be feeder schools into there. Sometimes they like the time off when their children are off, and those are things that can't be had, like at places like, as you stated, McDonald's or Buc-ee's or Walmart and things like that. So I will say that's a lot of times why people do select this position, either thinking about their future or thinking about their current circumstances. So those are other factors that I think are considered. The other thing, Mr. Martin, we also look at what sometimes paras or people who are applying for these jobs, they're coming from a daycare setting because they have similar experiences. Some of the job duties are similar. So they always are very excited about the pay that we have versus what they're making in a daycare. We do hear that a lot, and so that's another piece. And then we have our early childhood center as well. That paraprofessional position, sometimes those are full-time, year-round jobs, and so a lot of our daycares, that's enticing to them because it's in a school, in TRS.
Are we having a hard time filling them?
The ECC and all of those, or just all of them in general?
Just in general.
We really don't have a lot of vacancies right now. We have a few at the high school. We have one here and there, but oftentimes we do have applicants. I will say in general, this hiring season, all jobs have been, in every district, have had fewer applicants. So this would be another one where we aren't seeing as many. But in a minute, I'm gonna talk to you all about our training program we have and some classes we offer, so that people who may not meet our criteria of having those college hours, they can also take a para course that we provide.
Well, with so many businesses going to that $15 an hour, and you know, just as we market it with teachers with starting salary, as far as the marketing, as far as these professional positions, I'll just reiterate my earlier comment. I still think we need to be at least up to that $15 on that minimum. So I'll just make that comment.
And I think as the presentation goes along too, David, we don't have an issue with that. But we've made great strides in the last 2.5 years since I've been here even. And so I think she's gonna share some of that as well.
And I'll certainly come back to that chart if you all.
We really didn't do anything till this year, though, right?
Well, let me go back to
No, we
2018.
did 4% pairs.
So this year's the year we did it, like before that, right?
No,
We did-
2
No,
years
we
ago.
did 2 years ago.
2 years ago, we made $1 or so on them.
I remember we did.
So
And then-
you know, I was trying to remember about COVID being during some of these times when we had the same, but in 18-19, it was 1180 was our minimum, and then in 19-20, we studied it, and we brought it up over $1, to $12.99. And it stayed that way all through some COVID times, and then we reevaluated the compensation plan again and moved it to the next pay grade, and then increased it to $14.31. The other thing Ms. Cubby and I were talking about, we also made sure, even if people were below this minimum, the people who were current, yes, what we did was, we also, if they had 3 or 5 years of experience, we placed them in so that they didn't just go straight to that minimum only, because that would be too compressed. So what we did was we moved them according to their pay, to their years of experience, and so we staggered them out again. So it wasn't like everybody who was at $12.99 went to $14.31. And that's so that when we hire new people to our district, we want to honor their service, so we would need to do that for our incumbents as well. So then, and from 21-22 to this year, you all approved and graciously approved that $14.31 for that minimum. So there was a 10% increase from the minimum from 18-19 to 19-20, and then again there added to the 10.2%. And if people were here, of course, they would have additionally qualified for a raise that you all approved. I just wanted to talk a little bit about recruiting paras. I know there may have been a question about how difficult it is to either become a para or how expensive, and so I wanted to make sure that you all know that we've worked very hard as a district to sub-paras. We're always recruiting our substitute paraprofessionals to come in and start this work on our campuses and get their feet wet. And a lot of them are wanting to see full time with us. They enjoy it. They like the campuses. And so we offer a paraeducator course. That is if they don't have already their 48 college hours or an associate's degree to qualify, which is something that the state has in place for qualification. They can take the para course that's offered. It's a 2.5-day course, and Ms. Green, Jennifer Green, does conduct those courses. It's amazing. It gets them prepared to go into the classroom. It's $125. And we're offering the next course at the end of this month, and there are only 4 spots left. It's filled. It fills every time we have it, and people are excited. So after the para course, we do have a mini job fair, and the attendees that come and do everything they need to do there can be interviewed and can seek the full-time employment if there are positions open for us. So we try to do a very quick turnaround if we have these positions needed.
I think that's why we are able to fill our positions so quickly.
You growing your own, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, and I will tell you this cost really quickly. Region 4 is much more expensive, and they have to drive out to Region 4 to take the course. Other regional service centers do offer a virtual, but it's much more expensive. And so I think it's about double the price. So what we do with this is we just replenish our materials that we have to purchase for the course, and that's what we're doing with that money that we.
Ms. Viator, when we
Yes, sir.
approve, when the board approves salary increases,
Yes, sir.
the budget cycle, why are the paras a separate line item from that? Why? Because according to that, like, we looked at it in 18, and then it wasn't going to be a part of it this year, if I recall correctly. And we had a lot of discussion about it, and it did come up 10%, which is great. But why is it not automatically part of the discussion when we, like, a 4% or 3%, whatever it is we do for staff employees?
So just to separate two things, Mr. Martin, so what we do is when we look at our compensation plan, we're looking at the scales for hiring, and we're looking at how we need to increase or if they're competitive already. But those things don't have to do with our current incumbents and the salary of the increase that you all, that you approve. So that is like their raise or those things, so they receive that. These are what we do in
Just
our
the
book, is
Okay.
just the, yes, and we look at it, and Rhonda, I don't know if you wanna jump in, but we look at the book all the time. We look at what TASB's doing and what our neighboring districts are doing, and sometimes we do increase those things. We don't increase every single one every time for the hiring schedule, but we certainly do. People who are here and they have at least 90 days of the TRS year with us, they do qualify for the raise if they meet that criteria and they have favorable evaluation. Did I answer your question?
Yes, that makes
Okay.
sense. Thank you.
Okay. Here, just another piece of recruiting. I wanted to share this with you if you didn't know. We, again, and I think I said this earlier, we do honor job-like experience when we hire. So if someone has no experience at all in like a daycare that's very similar to the job duties of a para, or they don't have para experience, they do come in at the minimum salary because we want to look at being fair to our current employees. However, if they do, we give them credit for that, and we honor that as we bring them in. So they may not start at the minimum, they may start somewhere based on how many years they have doing that successfully. We also provide, and Billy, you may want to speak to this, on the job training that we have.
Yeah, so this program specialist that we have, they work with the paras, they train them and help them to learn their role in each one of those programs. So, and then that's ongoing, all year long. So anytime that they see need, they push in, they model how to support and help them, and then also during professional learning days as well.
As a matter of fact, you all have some web-based training today
Yes.
for your parents. Just to look at a couple more things about our current paras and supporting their growth. So if paras want to pursue a teaching certificate, which a lot of them do aspire to that, we do allow them, and you've probably heard me say this before, to complete their internship or their student teaching, as we used to call it, while they're employed as a para. They don't have to quit and go without a salary. We find ways for them to do that here, and our principals, our special ed department has been very flexible with that. For example, if they're pursuing an EC through 6, an early childhood through 6 certification, they're then placed for the next year in an elementary where they can do that work and still service our students and be able to get that. And I will tell you that we've hired many of those right away because they've done such a great job for us. So it's part of growing our own, but it's also supporting them to be able to do that, and not go without a salary. The other thing I wanted to share with you is paras who've given service before they become teachers, they can be given credit for up to 2 years of that para, just as if they would have been a teacher for 2 years, and they're placed on the salary schedule, not at $60,000, which is our minimum, but at a 2-year. So they get credit for those 2 years. So that's another thing that we offer here for our paras. Even if they come from another district and they were para for 2 years and they have that certificate. As we were preparing for this presentation, of course, from her former district, so I don't remember us doing any of those things, so this is great. So, just future initiatives, working with our academics division, and we want another Grow Your Own program we want to honor and tell you about is our CTE program, where we want to recruit our high school students. You know, we keep hearing about our profession just shrinking, and just really have students that are in high school right now be excited about the teaching profession. Mm-hmm. So those who want to pursue education, there's going to be a pathway. And what they're going to be able to do when they graduate is they graduate with their paraeducator certificate upon graduation. Nice. So how wonderful is that? They can start, they can be considered for hire, of course, in an appropriate position, that's for them. And then they can start in TRS, even if they're going to college. Some of them might have an associate's degree already. They're already so close, and maybe only 2 more years, and then they can be a teacher. So we benefit, they benefit. We would offer opportunities for them to observe and shadow teachers and teach them many lessons. And then we would like to provide like a career day, some mock interviews, and just some signing, them a signing day for them. So those are just some future things we'd like to do to grow Paris. Any questions for Ms. Trader?
I would just like to comment on, I know a current teacher who this year is a new teacher who came through as a para. She's phenomenal. She's doing a great job from everything that I can tell. And I love the idea of growing our own and bringing people up. Do we have something in mind for our paras similar to our leadership program where we're developing them in that capacity that we know they're coming in, they say they want to be an educator, and we kind of help guide them on that path?
It's a great idea. Actually, I actually do have something in mind that I'd like to start for next year, and I'm considering a paraprofessional academy so that year-round, when we have teacher professional learning, dedicated lessons, each one of those days, all-day learning for them to grow them into educators, into professional staff.
Okay.
So that's something I would like to start next year. I'm going to have my specialists start working on that curriculum.
Fantastic. I just love the idea of having a bench for our people and giving them a chance to work side by side and grow and develop as they're in the system, and then keeping them on board, because that's always better.
Generally, the ones we grow, we keep, right?
Yes.
Yes.
We have an administrator that was a para at one point, special education para.
Ms. Trader, could you go over the definition of those 2 paras again for us, and just for the benefit of anybody who might be listening to the board meeting now or in the future?
So inclusion paras, those are the ones that we've been discussing program paras. Inclusion paras work in the classrooms with gen ed students, and they are working at the direction of the gen ed teacher doing reteach. So the gen ed teacher does the first teach, the primary teach. They can pull small groups and do a reteach. They are dealing with less behavior, definitely less personal care needs. The program paras are, the reason they are paid at a different pay grade, and I'm thinking that's what you want to hear.
Yes, ma'am.
Because they do personal care, so feeding, changing, restrooming, depending on the student's needs, also some significant behaviors. And so they help implement the behavior intervention plans for the teachers. They also do prompting and cueing for behavior students. So there are some students who have pretty significant behavior needs, and they have plans that are very detailed, and the paras, at the direction of the teacher, are able to keep them on track and focused. And so that's what a program para does.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate you.
Board, do you have anything? Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
Thank you for allowing us to share.
And I'll find out about that, about the student staff ratio and that.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to item 8D, Bond Steering Committee. Mr. Bromley.
Good evening. Go Astros.
Yes.
Put the plug in. Okay. Good evening again, right? Tonight, just want to give you a quick update. Hopefully it'll be very brief regarding where we are as far as planning. Tonight will be more about the stadium component. And then when we come up in December, we'll give a thorough overview of Proposition A, or the other side, right, the district side, which obviously contributes to transportation and technology and all those different things that we're doing. So we're looking, if you recall in the last board meeting, I kind of gave you the idea and the overlay of Proposition A, and it'll be A and B because our outside the wall infrastructure technology will have to be in its own proposition. And then we have C, which is Bulldog Stadium. We held a bond steering committee meeting last night. I think in terms of feedback and just overall thoughts of that meeting, it was very successful, and I feel like we're at a place now that we can, we actually know what the layout looks like, and we can continue to move forward and get into the design development phase with our architect group. There is a change, and it's not a change necessarily to the stadium, but we changed to the entry point. In the beginning, when we were planning, and the design component had the entry or the field house conference center facing Fairmont. So where our current field house is, and you guys do have the package, you can see it a little bit better. We just essentially took the bowl and put it on the other side and made the entry point now on G Street. And there's some reasonings behind that. The biggest thing is parking. We're trying to find ways to grab more parking, but also the district has put a lot of effort into past bonds and building facilities, especially the Bulldog Center. And all of our new, right, as Coach Thompson would say, is on that side, towards G Street, towards LaPorte Elementary and LaPorte Junior. It's where baseball is, it's where softball is, it's where band practices, and et cetera. So putting that entry point there really plays a role and creates kind of what we're trying to push out, kind of like that village or that athletic village. It also connects us closer to LaPorte Elementary and LaPorte Junior High. That will play a role in parking. For people who park there, it's not quite the travel of getting to the other side of Fairmont when you're entering, or if you're trying to get to the press box, and so on and so forth. So I'm gonna go to this next slide. It's a little easier to see, but you can see here is kind of a rendering of what we look like now. The green there is our current field house. During the construction phase, we would keep that. That would be the last thing to go, and that will become parking at the very end. But the bowl side would now face Fairmont. We would have some type of graphic component. There would still be an entry point there. It would look really nice, but it's not the main focal point. On G Street there where it says New Bulldog Center, that's not what it will be called, but that is the field house. The field house obviously is 2 stories. We talked briefly about that in the past meeting. The top story has a conference center on it. That conference center is an educational space component that houses up to 450 individuals. It has the capability of partitioning off into 5 different zones. So it can be rented out, it can be used for professional development. Obviously, the design component behind that was to connect to the community and be able to bring people in and show off our district and so on and so forth. The bottom floor consists of a weight room that is essentially the same size that we have in our current field house, maybe a little bigger. And then there's locker rooms that are designated for gender neutral. We made sure that over time we could house any sport in those locker rooms, so they're not identified as male or female. They can serve in both capacities, and that was critical as we planned that portion out. I do have some conceptuals for you, but please note that we flipped the stadium literally this week, so these are showing it in the other direction. So just don't look at the surroundings here, but pay more attention to what the actual stadium looks like. So what you're seeing there is a stadium that seats a little over 8,500. It includes an 8-lane track. Obviously, in order to have those UIL events and so on, and bring in those different contests, we have to have those things. It is a 2-level, and it again looks pretty significant in shape and size, but the reality of why we had to go to a bowl look is because we're building on the same footprint. When you add an 8-lane track, it expands the width of that footprint. So in order to get the amount of seating that we needed to be able to, again, attract and host events, we had to expand it, and we made it longer instead of wider. So that's why you're seeing that. It has a concourse that travels all the way around the entire bowl. Underneath that concourse, and I got a picture here that kind of helps me talk through that right there. You can travel under there. That's where the concession stands and so forth will be as you go throughout that bowl of the stadium. Field house. There's a good look at the field house. Obviously, it will be centered up on the field. So if you're inside those on the top of that conference center, you're going to be able to hear the game inside. You can come out. There'll be kind of a veranda, a concrete area where you can walk out. And you can see the game as it's going on and so on and so forth. The football locker room's in there as well as some other locker room spaces again as I talked. And then upstairs is more so for that conference piece.
Cross country.
Cross country.
Any sport, too.
Yes,
That we need to
yes,
get out of.
yes.
Any sport.
Yeah.
We will have no issues with some of the issues that we're currently dealing with. They'll be gone as far as what we can hold in the capacity of what we're trying to do within that
Okay.
facility.
It'll change based on seasons, I would imagine.
Yes. And again, these are just renderings, just giving you a little brief idea of what it looks like here. You'd have your ticket booth, and I know we're kind of digital at this point, but we still have some spaces for that. And you'd enter into the concourse. When you look at the bowl piece here, we've made it so that in the bowl, when, let's say we're hosting a playoff game, we're bringing in 2 teams. There's 2 locker rooms at that bowl side, so they never have to use our facility as far as the conference center and so forth. So again, all the thoughts from the design team into the steering committee team has gone into this graphic, and we're really coming to a point where we have what we need as far as continuing out the schematic design and moving into the design development phase of the stadium. Any questions? Here's a picture of the press box. It is 4 stories, but it's 4 stories because one of the concourse level, you can walk under there. There's a concession stand. There's also like a booster club store, a space in there for that. And then we do not have a visitor's press box, right? If you go back, like we do now at the stadium, there's not one. So it has to house both teams, and we've allocated spaces and programs for that as we've done that through the design component. Any questions on what you see?
The press box still faces Texas.
Yeah,
It's
it'll be
like
at the same-
diagonally, but that
yes,
same side.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Sorry, I'm just
Home
making sure.
side will stay the same.
Rendering.
Yeah.
You said don't look on the outside, but I'm trying.
You're right. So just some visuals. Again, December will give you a further look at Proposition A as far as what's going into that, what those kind of numbers and things look like. We're getting to a point to have those packages wrapped up with the steering committee and prioritizing how we're gonna put that in front of you. So, any questions?
I think you guys have district. I mean, y'all had several meetings and different parties, kind of selling the need for a bond. Y'all doing a really good job about that. And I know we don't have anything firm, but some of the preliminary numbers for the stadium and the new conference center are kind of getting out there. And I'll put my parents under the bus, right? Like are you crazy? It's $90+ million. And my rebuttal to that is learning last month that we have our threshold for the bond has gone from approximately 60 million to 235 million. And I guess what I'm getting at is, can you guys give us some, I guess, a bird's eye view or the Cliff Note version of like how it came from, how it jumped up so high, and what that means? How do we sell people on this is not going to effectively increase their tax rate?
Obviously, and Rhonda, you may want to help me on why that looks different. Financially.
To me, that's a game changer, right?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
So, twofold. One, the capacity increased because the values increased. 2, the capacity increased because we were able to increase our debt rate because the compressed rate decreased.
it's primarily because of the debt rate. I like that. Like if I look at the tax rate, it only went up. It didn't go up that much, right?
It went up 4 cents, I think.
So we sold off bond debt to get to a lower.
No, our tax rate, our debt service rate went up to do future refunding. Because our compressed rate, our M&O side went down. Because we have to do compressed rate calculations every year.
I will just say I'm a LaPorte grad and an Aggie grad. I know I say it all the time, but if I can't understand it, there's probably other people
So
that don't understand that.
Here, you know, because here's one of the things that we're gonna do when we come back in December. We're working with a group, along with Rhonda and Stacy and all of our team, Dustin and everyone. And we're gonna have some informational boards out there that will be able to, and for the lack of better words, it's gonna be school finance for novice people that don't understand what a compressed rate is,
Me.
and understand what a debt service is and all of those kinds of things. But it's all about our debt, you know, being smaller now, so we have a threshold. So we will have those for you. I get it, Jeff, because people are beginning to ask me those same kinds of questions.
Well, no, like Deer Park did theirs this last time, right?
Yeah.
It was like, what, $50 million, and without having to raise their tax rate, and it passed no problem.
Yeah.
So I think if we can sell people on the fact it's not gonna
And
affect it.
explain it and educate our community, and so that's really what he was talking about, the redesign and the development phase. You have my word, when we come back in December, I forgot what this is now, we will be able to really kind of have some of those things out so that as people ask those questions, we can, because it's one thing to kind of talk, you know, those big words, compression and all of those things, but it's another thing for people to be able to see what we're trying to shoot.
Gotcha. I appreciate that.
All right, we've met with our communications team, with Huckabee, Bonnie is her name, she was at the meeting last night. So yeah, we've already kind of mapped out what that looks like, and we're gonna start doing some of that, obviously.
Thank you.
Because it's important. Good question.
So going back to the first picture, where it says visitor parking, so we're kind of switching that up a little bit.
Yes.
I have basic questions here.
Well,
Okay, so where the home parking is currently, we have a parking lot there, and the band practices there, correct? Visitor parking is what, do they still call it junior lot? I don't know. It used to be senior lot, junior lot, dating myself here. So are we going to maintain that lot, that visitor parking lot is going to continue to be the student parking?
Yes.
And that will continue to be the band practice parking?
Yes, that
Okay.
does not
a
go
park-
away. And if you look,
practice
this
lot.
one is a little better, and you can see it's grade. It's grayed out there up top.
Okay.
And that is the existing where the band practices and so forth. We'll be adding additional where the practice field is.
Okay.
The football practice, where the football practice field is. And
Adding
that's
additional
gonna be in the
parking.
packet that you got, that was a
Okay, which we
piece.
need back there anyway. I just wanted to make sure we're not,
We're not
hey
getting rid
band,
of
guess what,
something.
we're moving you again. Okay, all
Which
right.
that should give some additional parking to help for the Bulldog
Absolutely.
Center.
Yes.
Right,
Absolutely.
that's big over
So
there.
again, where the current field house in green is, right? That would,
Yes.
in phasing, that would be the last thing to go, because we want to keep that during the construction to house kids in.
Right.
And that'll become parking, so you gain some there. And then, again, where that practice field is, and even in the front, because if you look, we're losing the laundry center, the laundry facility and all that right there. So we'll gain some of that back, and then furthermore there where the practice field is, and it connects more to the Bulldog Center. And again, flipping it kind of brings all that to center. You know, if you come in off San Jacinto, like I was telling the committee last night, coming in off San Jacinto and you're heading down G Street, heading west, you're gonna get a beautiful view of Bulldog Center and all that comes with it. If you're coming from Broadway, right? Help me? Yes.
Yes,
You're going
Broadway.
east, you're gonna get field house into Bulldog Center.
So we're losing the practice field though, too, right, with that?
We are losing the practice field.
Is there, what's the deal gonna be like during a football season if the soccer needs some place to go? Where are they gonna go?
So
We're
there's
we're
a,
looking at some spots
Yeah.
that we have over by the junior high to kind of redevelop.
that packet I gave you earlier, take a look at that last
Take a look
slide,
at it, yeah.
that's important. Yeah. But yeah, we've got some options and some things we gotta consider as far as.
And that's
how that-
property that we have
Yes,
that's
it's
not
ours.
fully used
Correct.
in that way, so we can use it and develop that.
Are there any grass fields football wise anywhere around anymore?
We talk a lot about the ability to hold UIL track meets. What about like band? I know they have UIL, different things. Will this new stadium give us enhanced ability to do some of these things?
There's a platform on the press box that I think 3 to 4 cameras that we can fit. It's 2 layered and 2 levels, so it has the capability and meets all the requirements to host those band concerts, absolutely.
Yeah, because I'll tell you, the traffic over by Challenger Park the other day was pretty significant because of band
Right.
concerts. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
band.
This serves all
competitions.
our kids, I mean, and that's the purpose, and it serves outside of athletics. I know obviously you put a football field there and everybody thinks football, but, you know, I think upwards of 700 kids in a week touch that football stadium and that field, whether it be dance and PE and so forth, and they'll all be a part of what's being built, and then you tie in community and teachers and professional development. And I say this, and I'm new here, but I'll tell you, what it takes to set up the Bulldog Center, which we will do because it's beautiful and we love it, but it's a lot because you've got to totally turn that over. It takes my entire staff to do that, and we will. But this gives us quick, resources to host things and so on and so forth, and expand that. We can have a whole village, LPU. Julie loves it.
I said, Lord, last night at our bond steering committee, I said last night, and I'll continue to say it, with all of the work that's being done, the 8-lane track was the game changer. I mean, because you're trying to take, a current facility, and rebuild a brand new one with now an 8-lane track. And so it was the game changer. And so, Jeff, I won't say that was the reason why we went from 60 to whatever the number is, but it certainly plays a role in that when you're trying to make sure that, you don't have to leave here to go somewhere else to do those kinds of things.
And we're finally to a point now that we're settled on, kind of what our design looks like. It's about packaging, and working with bond council on what we can do, on putting things in certain places and so forth. So, we're getting to that point. We're finally moving to that point. So in December, that will be an in-depth look at Proposition A, which is more critical than this. It's the lifeline of our district. We talk about that through bond steering and some of the things we've done, but there's also big pieces in there, STEM, band and fine arts and transportation. We buy all our replacement cycle in transportation through bond, and that's a lot of money.
Right.
So we've got to put light on that, and we will, and that's the next phase. It's just we've tried to get this to a point where everybody's
Where
Can
we're
have
at.
some numbers and
so we
see
can
some
move
visual.
and start to outline.
Well, and to Jeff's point, if, it doesn't affect the taxpayer and we can get the most out of that, now's the time to do it.
Absolutely.
Without
I think when you look back,
hitting them.
and Dave, you had mentioned this with the survey results, a lot of people wanted to know more information. So that will be our job, and that will be the next goal of really making it simple and where people can understand it and justify why. Because it's about needing it, not wanting it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson, for letting the board be part of the planning process, because it helps reduce the amount of questions I ask you guys here, right?
Has it? Well,
It has.
we want to carry you guys along with us so that we're all on the same page. That's right.
Okay, we'll go to item 9, consent agenda. A, determine and approve any consent agenda items. B, approve board meeting minutes. Number 1, regular board meeting minutes, October 11th, 2022. C, receive principals' reports. 1, Early Childhood Center. 2, Bayshore Elementary. 3, College Park Elementary. 4, Heritage Elementary. 5, Jenny Reed Elementary. 6, LaPorte Elementary. 7, Leroy Rizzuto Elementary. 8, Lomax Elementary. 9, James H. Baker 6th grade campus. 10, LaPorte Junior High. 11, Lomax Junior High. 12, LaPorte High School. 13, Villa DeWalt High School. D, receive financial reports for October 2022. E, receive human resources report. F, approve budget amendment.
Can you pull that one, please?
Okay. G, approve employment of professional staff. H, approve purchase of a box truck for the fine arts department. I like that.
Pull. Yeah, pull it.
I, approve purchase of geotechnical engineering services for various bond projects. J, approve purchase of special education contracted services. I like that pulled, please. K, approve receipt and first reading of TASB local policy revision for FMH local. I like that pulled, please. L, approve second reading and adoption of TASB local policy revision for EF local. M, approve 2022-2023 district improvement plan and campus improvement plans. N, adopt a resolution number 2022-12 for participation in Educational Service Center Region 2 Goodbye Purchasing Cooperative through an interlocal agreement. O, adopt a resolution number 2022-13 amending the amount for committed fund balance for the year ended June 30th, 2022. Mr. Shoppy. You can repeat back the consent agenda for us, please?
A, B, C 1 through 13, D, E, G, I, L, M, N, O.
Okay. Consent agenda, seek a motion.
Make a motion.
Second.
Seconded by, motion by Mr. Martin, seconded by Ms. Thompson. Called for the vote. Is unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we go to item 9F, approved budget amendment. Mr. Martin.
Okay, so I almost feel like I should wait for Dr. Jackson on this one. So I don't, Rhonda, I don't have any
He's coming.
issue with the item on the approved amendment. I do have a question. So we learned this afternoon, or this evening, that we awarded approximately $900,000 in the retention bonuses, which is amazing. But also learned that we had about $110,000 savings. We budgeted just over $1 million, right? So we saved about $100,000. I don't know if this is the right protocol, and I apologize, it's probably not. But what I would like to see, I'm getting a lot of calls, being a part of the Education Foundation, we do some amazing things, and this year we had 6 or 7 special grant requests that all seem to stem, or to deal with STEM, engineering, robotics programs. I know we've had a lot of talk in this, in our district about helping to support and build up our STEM programs. I would like to make a motion, or just to put before the board to prayerfully consider taking that $100,000 savings and applying that back into the district. And my request, or the motion that I would like to make, is that we take that $100,000.
Can't. It's not germane.
We're not posted to do something
Yeah.
like that. You can talk about
So, okay,
it.
Yeah.
We
so
can
how-
put
so
it
how-
on the next agenda.
Let me ask this. Let me phrase it this way. How would we do a lot of? I brought it up under budget amendments because every month we have budget amendments. We come up with different things that we weren't accounted for in the original budget. So to me, this would be something that we're not essentially going out of budget because we have $100,000 savings. Can we apply that if we wanted to a program like STEM at the high school, or STEM that can be in the elementary across the whole district, something that could affect district wide? Can we put that money back into the district? Is my request and question.
And the answer to, the quick answer to that is yes, but I'm on that Education Foundation with you, and folks that presented are really not part of the high school program. And,
We-
and so I hear you, and I understand what you're saying or what you're asking for, but with all due respect, when the Education Foundation opens itself up to, we're willing to give you a grant, teachers will ask for what it is that they feel like they want.
For sure.
And so I've always said, and I've said this in your hearing, I've always said, I don't want the folks that are hearing our staff make those wonderful requests to ever feel like we're derelict in our duties as handling the general budget to make sure that staff get what they want. But I think part of the Education Foundation's role is to give those above and beyond kinds of things. But yes, can we do that? We absolutely can, with the right parameters put in place.
What about outside of it being part of the Education Foundation grant stuff system? We put the STEM program into place into all the elementary schools. What about it being directly to that program?
That's the board's.
Is that what we're talking, I mean, is that more what you were saying?
To me, I wanted to talk about this for a while, but the learning that we had, a bit of a savings, which is awesome. And I love that we did those retention bonuses. It's an amazing thing. But that savings has been budgeted for. I'd like to see it go back into, if I'm reading this correct, Ms. Cumbie, on page 96 of our comprehensive financial report, it looks like we had a $12.4 million net gain for the year, which is amazing. That's a great, I'm not trying to spend all of our money, but we're about to do a bond election. It would be really nice to give a win back to the district in terms of like, hey, I get a lot of phone calls and concerned parents over why we've hired teachers and we don't necessarily equip them to the full capacity that we could be equipping them. And specifically, a lot of the requests are for STEM-related items. And I'm not throwing the foundation on the bus in any way. They get $20,000 to this district, so that's a big deal.
Neither are we.
I just think that it would be nice to give this back without, again, having to break our budget or go outside of budget. I just don't know the best way to kind of propose that.
What I would recommend, and Chris, tell me if I'm out of order here, but what I would recommend is maybe a small committee of board members to work with myself and Stacy and Rhonda, and we can come together. If it's the three of you, we can do it without posting anything. If it's 3 board members, it may not be 3 that want to come, but certainly we could kind of have a conversation about that. and look at something, and then we can bring something back to the larger board. But I think it would be better if we sat down and almost in an ad hoc kind of meeting and had some conversations about what might be some of those things. And then we look at them, and then we bring it back on an agenda item at a later time.
Perfect.
Okay.
Appreciate that. So with that being said, I make a motion to approve the budget amendment item F.
Okay, Mr. Martin made a motion
I'll
to.
second.
Seconded by Mr. Hanks. Call for the vote. It is approved unanimously. Thank you.
I'll organize that at some point.
Thank you. That's awesome.
And then y'all let me know. And we'll do it when you can be here too.
Okay, we'll go to item H. Approve purchase of a box truck for the Fine Arts Department. And I asked this pool just I see the other schools, bringing in their 18-wheelers, and I know this is not the size of one, but I was wondering are we going to get it decked out to show our school spirit and logo and everything and show LaPorte?
Yes, yes. So we planned on doing that with the other two that we had. 18, 19, Ford, that we purchased it, and then COVID hit.
Mhm.
And we've been using Copeland signs for that. 18, 19, we didn't take delivery of the trucks till later. 19, 20 summer, or the summer of 20, of course, things were shut down.
Right.
Copeland came back online barely summer of 21. We've been in contact with them. They've just been running behind. We've been in contact with them. As soon as we stop using the trucks, we can send it to them. That's been our big problem with that aspect is we use those trucks
Constantly,
from
yeah.
September to May. So but the plan is, Mr. Yonnet, absolutely.
Okay.
We've
How
got
many-
great designs and great ideas that go on the thing.
Well, I'd sure like to see those designs.
Yeah.
before
We've
y'all-
got
How
to get
many
it.
Yeah.
trucks do we have?
We have two that are.
We have two small trucks
We have
right now?
two,
Not small, but I mean smaller than an 18-wheeler.
yes, yes.
And we're fixing to get another small.
Yes,
Wait,
Why don't we get one big 18-wheeler?
Yeah.
multiple reasons. I agree, there are multiple reasons.
You got an amen corner at
I could. Thank you.
Because we don't just use them
Band
for
nerd
marching
here.
band. Our trucks are so utilitarian. For example, yes, we use them for one trip or two trips per weekend
Yeah.
during the fall. Friday nights, Saturdays for contests, we pull in. But in the springtime, several times, Ms. Thompson, we have multiple trucks going all over the place.
And not just in the
Not just, so for example,
Orchestra.
the week before spring break, we typically have band, choir, and junior high orchestra going on at the exact same time. One of the biggest problems we also have is the ability to rent U-Haul, Penske, or PV rental trucks. Because in the last 2 years, they have become such a hot commodity around the city, you couldn't get a guaranteed rental. Monday mornings after a Friday night football game, we are instantly on the phone with multiple facilities. This past Saturday, we weren't sure if we were gonna have a rental truck show up for a contest. We were praying that it got there. And that's pretty common, not just for our marching band, but for our UIL concert and sight readings, for our indoor color guard and our indoor drum line, for our one-act plays. Anytime we have to use multiple sites and multiple transportation, it's a gamble with our rental trucks. Back to the 18-wheelers. Speaking as a person that had to deal with, in my previous district, 4 18-wheelers, to rent the tractor aspect of the 18-wheeler, because you can purchase the tractor, the trailer, excuse me.
The trailer.
You still have to rent the tractor. There's 1 or 2 facilities in the city of Houston that you can rent one of those huge monsters. And everybody, including industries, are renting those trucks. Very often, school districts are bumped down to the bottom. To purchase, and you still need to provide the class, Corey, correct me if I'm wrong, the Class A driver,
CDL.
the CDL Class A driver, to drive those trucks.
Right.
And if we don't have them on, in our driver pool, we have to find them. So there's that aspect. To purchase a tractor, conservative, 300,000. Round-ish, that's a ballpark, I'm just shooting in the dark for that.
Okay.
So there are multiple positives and negatives to the tractor, and you have to maintain the tractor. Oh, I'm sorry, the trailer. I'm not against the trailer aspect. I think they're wonderful, but they're very compressed as far as what you can use it for. It's absolutely wonderful, in my opinion, to roll into a marching band contest and have the big tractor, the big trailer. But the utilitarian aspect of it is a challenge. The logistics of it is a challenge.
But wouldn't you still keep your smaller
You can, but you
for
still,
your other?
but you're still running
things?
into, we may still have to rent a trailer or a tractor. I'm sorry, a rental truck, because you're still running three
Things going on at
things
once.
at the same time. And for the smaller aspects, you can't really rent a tractor for junior high band concert sight reading or junior high orchestra concert sight reading. Because you got that huge tractor.
So, in my business, we have these trailers that are essentially like motorcycle trailers, if you will.
Yes.
And they can be hauled by my SUV or, like we have school SUVs and trucks and vans and stuff like that. So for the smaller, or I say smaller, but the organizations that
The
have
fifth wheels?
less capacity that have, no, just regular trailer hitch,
Just regular trailer
back
hitch?
of a ball,
Okay.
throw it on my Expedition. Anyway, in the events that have less capacity but still need a little bit of size or whatever, wouldn't something like that be sufficient and work? And then the larger trucks could be used for, the band and the other aspects. I mean,
That is a
you don't have to have a
possibility,
CDL for that because again, I don't have that.
I mean,
don't know.
call me go big or go home, but I love the statement of the big truck.
I love the big
I love it
trucks,
too.
but also
I
think
like
it's-
big trucks and I cannot lie. I mean, I don't know, it's going through my head right now. It's going through my head right now.
Mr. Burke, how many
somebody check her
how many
bottle.
vans do you guys currently have right now?
I'm
Because
sorry?
I've kind of heard different numbers. How many vans are dedicated? I know we have to rent every. Can you tell me the number that we currently own and what we have to rent for a typical van?
I've been up
I know
too
that we
long.
have two, and Mr. Marley can speak more to
Time
what we
change is
have in
getting
our
to
store,
me.
but I know the two that we use, we have two box trucks right now.
Okay, 2 trucks. So is this proposal? How many additional trucks is in this proposal? Just one for 134,000. So I apologize because I didn't realize this was on the agenda this week. We had a chamber member, so I want to put this under the realm of Partners Education, right? So we have a chamber member that volunteered to donate a 53-foot trailer. We have another chamber member that has agreed to help retrofit it, and another that'll do the full wrap. So that was a tremendous savings. If this is a box truck, it's going to cost us $134,000, right? That 53-foot trailer won't work. We need a low body if we were to go the big truck to the end's point, right? And so I had a meeting this past week with, you guys mentioned the companies. There's a company here local, Clark Freight, who's a member of our Chamber of
Very familiar
Commerce.
with it.
They, for decades, have been driving the Deer Park ISD trailer. They recently started charging. He says he works with 5 different districts locally. They have a small charge. It is a charge, but you're going to save substantially if we can find a way to get that trailer donated and pay these guys to come in and haul it, whatever. Once they haul it, they provide the trailer and the driver, the tractor part of it, to go pull it to where we want to go. So I don't have the numbers on that, but he is helping us as of today he's got the network of people that have that specific 53-foot trailer, and I want to call it a low body. I'm not, it's not the technical term, but I guess I'm just saying if the district is amicable, I think this is a great example of something that could fall under Partners Education. If we can get that trailer donated, we can still use these 2 trucks that we currently have, and then we got companies that will retrofit it and that will fully wrap it, and it's just a really cool thing for pride of our district, right? But it's going to save us money ultimately.
So my recommendation would be you could work with Mr. Bromley and Mr. Burke, and y'all have some conversations along with Terry with Partners in Education, so at least we can investigate it.
So do we push this on?
Table
Table
this.
it.
Table?
But please don't, Mr. Burke, please understand. I think everybody here is wanting to. You guys need to. We realize there's a need, and we want to get it to you guys, but I want to figure out how to get
Absolutely.
it best and to.
Well,
Absolutely.
Well, I'm like Deanne.
Save
I
some
like
money.
the big truck too, but I'm not going to sing it. But
Please.
I think it just makes. I mean, when you see these other school districts come up to the our football stadium, and you see these big 18-wheelers, and we got a little box truck. You know, that just makes a, you know, so.
I totally understand.
And if we can get
Totally
the
agree.
savings and save the taxpayer money in doing it, I think I'm all for it. So, I'll be in favor of tabling it as
If you
well.
have time, I'd love to introduce you to David Snotts, who's the owner of Clark Freight.
Absolutely.
And he said he'd gladly help us work on finding the right kind of trailer, whatever that looks like for you guys.
That works for me.
And then we can help find somebody to help pay for it.
Save some budget dollars.
Okay.
Somebody needs to make a motion to
So,
table.
yes.
Make a motion to table.
Mr. Hanks made a motion to
Second.
table H, and Ms. Crutcher seconded to table. We call for the vote. It is unanimous to table. Okay. Okay.
Come on, Dean, you gotta say goodbye.
Go to item J, approved purchase of special education contracted services. I asked this pulled. I just want to make sure I understand why we had difficulty filling this position, and
Come on, Billy.
yeah.
So I'm sorry, did you ask why we're having trouble filling?
Yes.
So because you need to have a special education certification as well as the EC through 6. And the problem is that many of the teachers are already under contract. And so we just haven't been able to find or fill
It was
that.
a loop dream. We were trying to do it. It was just a loop dream.
It absolutely is. And we're searching every day. Every single day we're checking for applicants. We just don't have any. And the few that we have had, we've had a few that have been interested. They were not the best choice for.
Is this just a general? I mean, I'm not saying general education, but is it a subset special education type position?
It is a life skills
Life
position.
skills, okay.
Yes, sir. And they are typically more difficult. to
Different.
fill.
Gotcha.
It's a
Okay.
very special person.
Okay.
And I'll just say that is regarding special education positions right now, we were just at a conference for all HR in the regional area at ALEAF, and all districts are still struggling with this position, having open positions, just having very much difficulty
Just
filling.
collapse classroom.
Yes, it's a very critical shortage in the state and the nation right now,
And,
especially.
and how are we handling the position right now? Like, are we I guess who's in charge right now of that?
So in that position, and we're talking about the Lomax Elementary position currently, they've had a sub, a long-term sub, and so now we have a contracted teacher that we've hired through an agency.
Okay.
And it is more expensive.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You know, and this is just FYI for the board. Angie, you could possibly help me with this. We haven't been given any favors by SBAC when it comes to special education. It's, you know, clearly that's a special needs child that needs, you know, all of the wonderful things that a teacher, an expert in the classroom. But what I'm trying to say is, it's become increasingly more challenging to just become certified in all of the areas that they're asking you to become certified, to
Ms.
teach the class.
Ms. Trader mentioned about an EC through 6 certificate, whatever core content, the grade levels that this teacher is servicing. In addition, a special education certificate. Teachers also have to pass what's called a PPR test, which is the professional responsibilities in pedagogy. In addition, they also have to pass what's called the STR, the science of teaching reading. And I'm sure you all have heard of the science of teaching reading as something that's come up in TEA in recent years. That's an additional test that has to happen. And I will say that while we want every vacancy filled in the district, that is absolutely our goal all the time, there are districts struggling with multiple positions, not just one, but in the double digits of positions that they're not able to fill.
And it
I'm
has everything
talking
to
all
do
over the
with the
state.
certification requirements that
That's
people have
right.
to jump through. That's really our biggest challenge right now.
We did some recruiting outside of the state. We even hired someone from California. I mean, so the positions that we had that did open, you know, in some of these programs, we filled them with some different, you know, that we would normally have had to go outside of our general Houston area, that we really did some searching with some recruiting. So we're really working hard, and we're gonna continue to look at how we can best recruit and, again, grow our own paraprofessionals.
Okay, thank you so much. Bree.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any further questions, board? Okay, seek a motion.
Motion?
Mr. Hanks made a motion to approve,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Thompson. Call for the vote. It is passed unanimously. Okay, we'll go to item K, approve receipt and first reading of TASB local policy revision for FMH local. I asked this pulled. I have actually two questions on this. The first one is I see the language removed that if a student fails to conduct himself or herself in such a manner during the hours for these programs, he or she may be removed from the backlit. I'm just trying to understand, where is this language coming back in, or is this just, I mean, it seems like it's just in the blue, the 3 lines. I'm just trying to get an understanding of what's the reason behind this. Yeah.
So what we did is we took the piece of behavior and conduct, and that's going into our student handbook.
Okay.
So what we want to make sure is in our local policy is really about the requirements for graduation.
Okay.
And so we took those pieces and you'll see it in the student handbook.
So if a student acts up in the
Exactly.
okay, so it's still in the okay. My other question is, in light of the language, given what I've been hearing about the new STAR testing and about scores not being available till possibly August, or November, right? When of sometime in the future. I know most of our seniors, I think, fall in that bracket with the COVID and being eligible, so this may not, so I may be only talking about a very small set of seniors, possibly early graduates or something, maybe, but if it says to be eligible to participate in commencement activities, you got to meet all state and local graduation requirements, including all state testing, and if the state testing that they need is not going to be available by the commencement, what are we going to do?
They've informed us, and this has happened before, but generally speaking, seniors, and Mr. Grammer and Dr. Brown, you let me know if I'm speaking out of turn, but generally speaking, we always receive those graduating seniors' information prior to graduation.
Right. We'll get-
And there's also the graduation placement committee.
Exactly.
So we have some opportunities to make sure a kid is not going to be done wrong because the
Right.
state didn't release data for us.
We
Okay.
will, they have told us that the raw score of our seniors will be given to us at the end of May, which will be right at the time that we are with our graduation timeline. But like Dr. Jackson is saying, we have processes in place, because we know that as a parent, you want a parent to go and buy the cap and gown, fly family home over, and the child is not graduating. So that's our first
We've got some
priority.
provisions in place.
So we've got major provisions in place, and we're going to continue to see what they say, because that is the biggest question that all the districts in the state of Texas is asking TA and our commissioner now. We have graduation already in place. We have parents who are scheduled with parents coming in and flying out and family members, so we need to have our scores. So we are going to ensure that with those requirements, that the court will have students and their parents know ahead of time when graduation, if the child is graduating or not.
That's all I had. Thank you so much. I have some comments about that whole TA thing, but I know that's not germane to this. But anyway, but I'll leave it at that. So with that, seek a motion, board. Okay, moved by Mr. Shoppy. Sorry,
Second.
and seconded by Ms. Crutcher. Call for the vote. And it's approved unanimously. Thank you. We go to item 10, action or discussion items. A, adopt annual comprehensive financial report for the year ended June 30th, 2022. Since the discussion item, does Ms. Cumby?
Yes, our auditor, Patrick Simmons, with him is here to present the audit.
Bless you for waiting so patiently.
Yeah.
I got my legs out here.
everybody. My name is Patrick Simmons. I'm a partner with Whitley Penn. I'm your new auditors. This is our first year working with Porte ISD, so thank you for the opportunity to work with the district. I will go through the audit results this year, and I'll do some kind of high-level financial highlights, and feel free to, if you have any questions, jump in. So first, just an introduction to our team. Myself, I was the engagement partner, and then Laura Lynch is the senior manager. Tom Peterson is the concurring partner, so the concurring partner is not necessarily on the engagement team, but they're another set of eyes that looks after they're more independent than those with Whitley Penn, so he's contracted with us. And then Kimberly and Leanne both worked on the engagement more on the day-to-day with the district. And so I'll also jump in because I always tend to forget if I leave it for the end, but I want to say thank you to Rhonda and her team and George as well. They did great. The first year audits are always difficult. Getting used to the new firm, and both sides are a little more challenging, but the district did great. We communicated with each other very well, and really appreciated everything y'all did for us. So jump in. There's 3 types of opinions we can provide. I'm really just going to go over the unmodified opinion. So this is the clean opinion, and this is what you want. This is what every district strives to achieve. I will jump forward a slide to the actual opinion. So the district did receive an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, and what that tells you is it gives a reasonable level of assurance that the numbers in this report can be relied upon. They may not be exact, but they are very close. There were no internal control findings to report, no internal control deficiencies, and no findings related to compliance. And so backing up as we go through, we came out in around May, and we do our planning. We do a lot of internal control testing. We meet with all the different departments, and we get an understanding of the internal control structure and the systems in place. And then we actually test those internal controls, make sure they're working. And then we exit at interim, and then we come back after year end, after the books are closed, and we look at the balances of your trial balance, all your numbers, and we perform tests on those balances. And then all of this goes into providing an opinion on the financial statements in this big book that you have here. And so along with that, we also do a lot of compliance work, and you receive a federal single audit for the federal funds that you expend. And so the major programs are rotated each year, and so Child Nutrition was the lucky program this year, and then ESSER will continue to be a major program for the foreseeable future until all that money is spent. It's a high-risk program, so it's going to be picked no matter what. But happy to report unmodified opinion over those major programs, no internal control deficiencies related to those as well. So these are all the areas that we do actually sit with the department and go through the internal controls, payroll, HR, purchasing, accounts payable, IT, and we make sure there's proper segregation of duties. We also think about, is there any just ways to improve it? It may not be something that rises to the level of finding, but we see this in another district and this works really well, maybe consider that, or this is just, you'll get more assurance if you perform this extra step, so let's add that in there. So we try to make a point every year to find those things as well, not necessarily to, say you're doing a bad job, but, you can always do better. So then into the financials, so the first one I have here is a statement of net position. It's on page 13 in the report. And so this is just a high level overview of this, but the statement of net position, it's on the same financial reporting basis that a company operates on. So it's a full accrual basis. So you're going to have your capital assets and your long-term liabilities associated with those capital assets. So this is separate than from what you would budget on and your expenditures. So also in this number is your pension liabilities and your OPEB liabilities, which is calculated based on an actuary for TRS, and then you're divvied up a share of those liabilities. And so on the bottom left on here, you have your net investment in capital assets, $31.8 million. So I think that's probably the most important number on this statement, C, and that's your capital assets, net of accumulated depreciation, and then net of the debt related to those capital assets. And so over time, this chart here, it tracks your net investment in capital assets with the line, and then you have your debt, which you did see steadily increasing until this year, which you paid off about $17 million of the debt, so there's a significant decrease, which raises your net investment in capital assets. And then, so your capital assets appear to be decreasing, but that's because of the depreciation associated with that each year. Your general fund revenues, about 90%, 88% was made up of property taxes, and then the next largest was the state aid of 4.7 million, and then you also record a on behalf piece for TRA of 4.1 million. Then there's a chapter 313 of 3 million, federal funds of about 3 million, and then other miscellaneous local sources of 1 million. And then on the general fund expenditure side, the intergovernmental charges is made up of about 48 million in the recapture payment, so that really skews this pie chart here, and I wish I would have took that out and filled it out separately, but I did note that if you only look at what you provide for instruction and student services, so the instruction of 45 million, school leadership 6 million, student services, all of those together is about 80% of your total budget. So that's very good that the money being spent on the students. And administrative is remained low, and that really shows the money's going to the students.
Where does the other 6 million on intergovernment charges, where does that make up? You said 48 million for recapture?
That's going to be on page 17 of this report. So there's payments for shared service arrangements. The other big one is the payments to the tax increment fund. So that's 4.3 million.
Okay, gotcha.
And then other intergovernmental is 1.1 million. I don't know the detail of that off the head, but the big piece is the tax increment.
When do we let our insurance? On page 17? Because I know we pay a lot for flood insurance.
That's recorded in the internal service fund.
Hmm.
This is, so it's page 17 of this report here, you'll have a better breakdown.
Oh, gotcha.
And then overview of your budget actual in the general fund. So at the end of the day, there was a positive variance of about 5 million. So you have positive variances in your expenditures of 3.7 million and in your revenues of 1.3 million. Overall, positive 5 million. And you can see in the actual column, your net change in fund balance is an increase of $4.4 million. And what that looks like compared to your expenditures is if all revenue ceased to exist at the end of the fiscal year, you could have kept operating for about 160 days. And if you compare that to next year's budget, which is higher, then it was about 140 days of operations. And so that's that's in a good spot, definitely. The 30, 60, 90, they're just based on some recommendations. 30 is definitely, you're in the red zone, it's not looking good, but you're exceeding those recommendations there. And so, and then this slide also, it is your actual fund balance that you have primarily in the general fund, but you also have about $4 million in fund 492. But that y'all are gonna commit that fund balance at this meeting as well for student achievement and safety. So I just wanted to also bring that to the front here, that you have the unassigned in the general fund of 56 million. You've committed funds for compensated absences and insurance deductibles, and then you also have the 3.8 million for student achievement and a special revenue fund. And then on the child nutrition fund, you significant increase this year, and so you ended the year with $1.3 million, and so this fund, you have to maintain 3 months of operating expenditures less than that in fund balance, and so you did exceed that, but a plan was submitted to TDA on how to reduce that excess fund balance. So there was about $300,000 in excess fund balance that will need to come down. And then the debt service fund, the expenditures are right on budget with the payments for the debt. And then the revenues, mainly property taxes in here, was $1.5 million over budget. And so you ended the debt service fund with $9.5 million at the end of the year. And then you had your following debt service payment of about $4.5 million in August. And then with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
That amount you were asking for, that's our, what we pay
HCAD.
Oh, 099, that's the number, okay.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Board, if there are no questions, seek a motion. Mr. Hanks, may I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Thompson. Call for the vote. And it's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we go to item B. Authorize the superintendent or designee to negotiate and execute a contract for program management services for potential bond projects. Dr.
This
Jackson?
is Gallagher, am I correct, Mr. Bromley? And we had some conversations about this before, so we seek your approval of that.
Okay, board, do y'all have any questions on this item? Okay, seek a motion.
So moved.
Ms. Thompson made the motion, seconded by Mr. Shoppy. Call for the vote. It is unanimous. Thank you. We'll go to item 11, action on closed session items. We do not have any tonight. We'll go to item 12, closing comments of the board trustees and superintendent. A, attendance at recent district and community events. B, announcement of upcoming district and community events. C, outstanding performance by district staff and students. Anybody?
Just want to say congratulations to all of our athletes on everything that they've accomplished so far this year. We had some amazing results and stuff, some exciting things that we could see, and really, really excited to see what those students do in the upcoming years. Also, just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I know that's just around the corner, but be safe. I'm thankful for this district. We're a very blessed district. I'm thankful for this team and for everybody who works to take care of our students. So.
Thank you. And anybody else?
Yes, I got a couple of things. I just want to say that we never talk very much about the campus improvement plans, but I know a lot of work and hours go into those things. So don't think those things go unnoticed and don't get read, because they do. But I did want to pull it off the consent agenda just to say that, so I'm saying it now. And Rhonda Cumby, I could not let your last board meeting go unnoticed without 14 years of dedicated service to our district, and we're really going to miss you when you're gone. We've appreciated all the dedication that you've given us. We're going to miss you, and I know you've really held a tight purse string on our money, and we've appreciated it, and sometimes we've been aggravated by it, but we've seriously appreciated it. And we're going to miss you when you're gone, and we've really appreciated your service. And I don't know what else to say except that we're going to miss you when you're gone. But we hope you enjoy your retirement. It's well deserved.
Anything else, board? Just want to echo what Ms. Thompson and Ms. Crutcher said. Thank you for your service, Ms. Cumby. We all very much appreciate it. And you've always been very helpful since I've been on the board with anything related financially. Even sometimes I've come back year and year and asked the same question probably a couple times. But I appreciate your service.
I agree with that too, Ms. Cumby. I know I ask a lot of really ridiculous questions, and I appreciate your graciousness to put up with every one of them. And I'm jealous of the retirement, but I wish you certainly the best of luck. Yeah, hopefully. I also want to, again, echo the sentiments just congratulate our varsity football, the girls volleyball, all of our athletes on phenomenal seasons. Also want to just commend the resiliency of our band. Our high school band's amazing. They've gone through a lot this last semester, and they continue to shine. I appreciate the Mr. Burke and the job he's doing. The assistant directors have stepped up, our booster club and the parents. They do a phenomenal job, so we thank you guys for that. I'm so honored and excited about having Terry back in the district to lead up our partners in education. You couldn't have picked a better person, Dr. Jackson. I appreciate Dr. Jackson giving us his blessing and pushing this out there. And I think I just really, more than anything, appreciate everybody that's poured back into our district for so many years, in spite of not having a formal partners in education program. There's some amazing things that are happening for a long time, and we look forward to even more amazing things in the future. Last but not least, I mentioned the Education Foundation. So Melissa, Dr. Jackson and I have the privilege of being on that board. So they have their big Super Bowl event coming up, so the Dollar Patrol. So our foundation is giving back more than, next year will be our 30th year, I believe, Charlotte. So we've given out more than $2 million back into the district, right? So I just encourage you guys, if you haven't been, go participate in the Dollar Patrol. It's an amazing day of going out and presenting checks to the teachers, but more than that, there's just this amazing atmosphere of marching down the halls with drums, and especially our elementary schools. They get so excited. So again, if you're free and able to do that, please get with Charlotte. And I appreciate all the work that Charlotte, you guys are doing on the foundation.
Any further from the board? Okay, without objection to the board, we'll adjourn the meeting at 9:17 p.m.